how's it going? My name is Jay and welcome to the channel, and welcome to October Lake in Planet Zoo, a project where we're working on building this really large wildlife park situated in the Canadian Highlands. In today's episode we continue our dive into the brand new Africa pack by including a colony of African penguins. These guys are some of my favourites, so I hope you look forward to the episode. If you do like the sound of it, and if you do like today's video, please do consider leaving a like on the video, and of course do subscribe for more Planet Zoo content. I upload every Wednesday at 5 PM UK time. Before we get any further, I want to say a huge thank you to all of you because the channel has just hit 2,000 subscribers, and that is amazing. It means so much to me that all of you enjoy this content. You know, a huge thank you to the people who've stuck around from the beginning, and of course a huge welcome to all of you who are new here as well. I love the fact that I get to share, you know, my love for animals, my love for prehistory, stuff like that with all of you, while, you know, showing off like gameplay with Planet Zoo and other games as well, and just having a lot of fun and building a little community. And it's quite a nice thing. And yeah, just a huge thank you to all of you for the support. For a little 2,000 subscriber special video, I'm thinking I might go into London Zoo and do a little vlog. I do have a membership and I'm in London Zoo ridiculously often. Like, I'll be going in this Friday. I was there last Tuesday. I'm there very often, and I'll be there even more often because I'm writing my dissertation on it as well. So I'll be in there kind of doing a little bit of research work and stuff like that. I'll talk a little bit more about that at some point. I'm sure you might find it a bit interesting as well because it does tie into zoos and stuff like that. It's specifically about the differences between how communications are in zoos between charismatic and non-charismatic animals. And it'll be quite fun, and as I go along with this project, I'm sure I'll update you guys as it goes. If you do find it interesting, of course, but feel free to let me know if that's not something you're particularly interested in. But yeah, big thank you all of you again, and yeah, I'll do a live little vlog at London Zoo and have that be a little 2,000 subscriber special, I think sometime in the next couple of weeks, so look forward to that. With that all out of the way, let's talk about today's episode here. So like I said, we're going to be including some African penguins, which are actually one of my favorite penguin species. There's loads of penguin species, like a ridiculous amount, and there's so much diversity there, and I talk a lot about them in the king penguin episode. So if you want to learn a bit more about the huge variety of penguins in the world, go check out that video. I also haven't released that video on, I think it was like Penguin Day, so definitely a fun thing to check out if you're interested in more penguins. But today specifically we're going to focus, of course, on the African penguin. For the longest time, I thought the penguins in London Zoo were actually African penguins. Turns out they're not. They're Humboldt penguins, and I don't know why I got it in my head that they were African penguins. But they actually look quite similar. So Humboldt penguins and African penguins actually look very similar, despite living on different continents altogether. They have very similar markings. They are quite different still. They have like a very different like banding pattern and stuff like that. But you know, they are closely related. So I can imagine I just kind of like accidentally mistook them for each other. But for the longest time I thought they were African penguins. Turns out they're Humboldt penguins. But yeah. And that London Zoo penguin habitat, and I've probably mentioned this in other videos, is probably one of my favorite zoo habitats I've ever seen in like ever. It's an incredibly well done habitat, huge, so much space for the penguins. It's beautifully made, loads of great foliage work, lots of cute little tunnels for the penguins, lots of space for the penguins to explore and hide and like swim around in, and great viewing from the guest's point of view. The places for staff to go and give talks and stuff like that. And I took some of those ideas and put them in the king penguin habitat here in October Lake. But for this African penguin habitat, I decided to keep things a bit more low-key because this is meant to be more of a little Africa section. It's meant to be focused on a lot of the smaller animals, and with the African penguins, they're a little bit of a smaller species as well. And it's a smaller colony than we had with the king penguin, so I decided to keep the habitat relatively small. But yeah, let's talk a little bit about the species itself. They are really interesting. They're also known as the jackass penguin, and I know that sounds rude, but it's called the jackass penguin mainly because they actually make a sound like a donkey. a really loud sound like a donkey, which is really quite funny. And they make some of these sounds in the game as well, which is really funny to listen to. They're super interesting as a species. All penguins have kind of this thing called counter shading in terms of their coloration, which means their bellies are going to be a really light color and their backs are going to be a really dark color. So a lot of animals, especially marine animals, have this kind of counter shading thing. So what that means is that when they're swimming, animals looking above at them will find it harder to see them because the light bellies blend in with the sunlight, and animals from above looking down at the penguins won't really see them because the darkness of their backs will blend in with the darkness of the deep ocean. And that is a really great way to avoid predators. And speaking of predators, the African penguin has some unique predators, so to speak, because they're distributed across South Africa. You know, when you think of like penguin predators, you think of seals, like orcas, maybe even, stuff like that, like aquatic animals that will prey on penguins. In southern Africa, these penguins are occasionally predated on by leopards, which is crazy. Like, can you imagine a leopard eating a penguin? Like, that does not sound like a normal food chain, but it absolutely is, because these guys are distributed across quite a large chunk of that lower half of Africa, right along the coast. And they are, distributed across quite a few different countries there. Of course, South Africa being one of them, but going further up, I believe even towards the Congo. I'm just going to double check that. But it is crazy how high up they get. So actually, they mainly live on islands, but it does go up surprisingly high in terms of like the countries that they inhabit. Yes, actually, yeah. So South Africa, Namibia, Angola, yeah, the Democratic Republic of the Congo, Gabon, and Mozambique. So quite far up actually. But yeah, really interesting how far they actually get. So that's a little bit about these penguins. They're really interesting in general. I think they're very cool. They do well in captivity, and they are very commonly seen in zoos. They actually really adapted well to different temperatures because they don't really require very cold temperatures. They can just hang out in zoos for the most part, and they're found kind of all over the world, essentially in different zoos, and they do well. Unfortunately, in the wild, they are a little bit endangered for many reasons. Of course, loss of habitat due to human encroachment. Oil spills are a big issue for these guys. They have got caught up in a few, and it's never great for them. And it's happened several times, and it's really not great. Also, like fisheries and competition there, not a great situation. But hopefully with captive breeding and programs like that, there will be resurgence in their numbers. And out there in the wild, there are a few organizations and conservation societies that are, putting together rehabilitation programs and kind of protected areas for these penguins to breed and recover. So that'll be really good for that, hopefully. Anyways, going back to the episode itself, probably forgot to talk a little bit about the build itself, so talk about it now. As you can see, relatively chill habitat here. When you're building a semi-aquatic habitat, I would recommend always putting in and taking out the water quite regularly so that you can tell where it's going to be. That's what I did here. I wanted a bit of aquatic foliage. I wanted this to still be quite a foliage-heavy habitat, and this is something I did with the king penguin habitat too. In zoos, penguin habitats are rarely, they don't have very much foliage usually, from what I've seen. But I thought it'd be nice to include it. It still looks like it fits. The foliage isn't going to encroach too much on the penguins' areas. They probably won't go into it. Penguins don't really like dense foliage as far as I can tell. Not in the game and in real life too, they're just not fans of it. I also made these little houses for them to kind of chill in, and I think they look really cute, and they have these little windows as well. Made the Australian plank pieces, which I think I've severely underutilized. They're great plank pieces. And I think this looks really cute. A few kind of high up planter areas which the penguins can't get to line the sides. And of course, just like all of October Lake, about 5 million faux rocks. Those faux rocks remain some of the best pieces in the game. Huge fans of them. You may notice once in a couple seconds, the game might skip a little and the video might look a little bit different. And that's actually because for some reason I've been having this issue where, actually, yeah, you will have just seen it there. Every time I click on the underwater feeder, it causes my game to crash, which is really strange. So I wanted to use the underwater feeder here, but couldn't. So I ended up having to redo some areas and add in different foliage and stuff like that. Not much of a change. Thankfully, the autosave managed to catch it just in time. I had to rebuild the houses from scratch, but I managed to just do it pretty easily because obviously I did it the one time. It gets quite straightforward from there. And then here it's just me kind of like filling out the edges, you know, lining out the habitat with some like planks and stuff like that so the guests have a little bit more, you know, areas to view from. And then we're pretty much done with the habitat. It was a very fun build. I've been really enjoying building this little Africa section here. And we're definitely not done with it. There's going to be a few more habitats. The southern white rhino is going to be a fun one. That's going to be quite a big habitat. And I don't know if I'm going to include any more like African megafauna. Like when I did initially start October Lake, I didn't want it to be like a zoo, you know. I wanted it to be more like a nature reserve, maybe with some small animals here and there. But of course it has become a bit of a bigger zoo. So I'm thinking, you know, we could include things like giraffes. I wouldn't really include elephants. I don't think they would fit in the zoo. And just in general, I think this isn't the right climate for an elephant type habitat anyway. So most of the animals here that I've included can survive and can thrive to an extent within a slightly colder environment, and I've seen it being done in places. For example, the Southeast Asian animals like the babirusa and the clouded leopard and stuff, they have been, you know, successfully kept in captivity in colder environment without much issue and stuff like that. For example, we have babirusa here in London Zoo as well, and they do pretty okay as far as I can tell. So I decided to kind of stick to animals which I know can do a bit better. For example, elephants struggle in colder climates, I think. Same with some of the other African animals. But we'll see as I go forward and see how I feel about it. Just because, of course, we can do things like indoor habitats and things like that. So we'll see how it goes. There was plenty of smaller African animals which I'd be happy to include. The warthog, the aardvark, plenty of animals like that. So we'll see how that goes as well. Anyways, we're coming up to the end of the episode now. Once again, huge thank you for 2,000 subscribers. That was such a lovely thing to wake up to this morning, and it means the world to me that you all are here and you enjoy the videos and that you comment down below. Love, you know, hearing from you guys. Love hearing your thoughts on the videos. I love hearing little stories from you guys as well. Like I've heard, you know, like stories of your visits to the zoos and stuff like that, and your own experiences with animals. It means a lot to me, and yeah, huge thank you for all your support, and I hope you stick around. This is a really great, fun hobby for me, and I just love sharing my love for animals and, you know, all that, basically. Anyways, that is it. Thanks so much for watching. Please do like the video, of course. If you did like it, do subscribe for more Planet Zoo content. And as always, I will see you all in the next video. Bye!